Hey, what's up, guys? Hope y'all had an awesome Thanksgiving. I really have a soft spot for Ho-Oh right now in my heart, and it was in my last two videos, and I find myself, you know, wanting to add it to a lot of teams that I make because I'm very familiar with like what it's good at, and it's not exactly flashy, or it may not be intuitive to some about what makes it good, but I want to try to flesh that out, and even for people who aren't super familiar with this metagame, to sort of paint that picture so that it makes it starts to make sense. So in my mind, Ho-Oh is really good at it's most valuable for doing three things primarily. So the first one is by just having defog. And I think that the reason that you really need defog on any kind of defensive team is because of spikes. Because if and I mentioned this in the last video, but if Pokemon only had Stealth Rocks, then especially now that we have heavy duty boots, you could just build the team around it and actually just not do anything about Stealth Rocks, just leave it there. But because spikes are, they take at maximum 25%, I mean that's too much, right? You're not switching, you're not defending anything when you're taking 25% on the switch. So you need defog for spikes. And who sets up spikes in this tier? Pretty much just Ferrothorn. So and sometimes Cloyster and other things, but mainly Ferrothorn. And Ho-Oh is obviously really great into Ferrothorn. And if you you think, why not just use Yveltal? I mean, most teams already have Yveltal because it deals with Calyrex-Shadow. And I would say that it's switching Yveltal into Ferrothorn obviously gives Ferrothorn a lot of opportunities to chip away and, status and Leech Seed onto Yveltal, making your team more prone to Calyrex-Shadow sweep or having it break your team. And so especially since I play mostly defensive teams, that's not something that I would rely on, just using Yveltal to be my defogger and also Calyrex check at the same time. I mean, I don't even like just solely using Yveltal as the Calyrex answer most of the time, but yeah, so it acts as a really good defogger. And then, secondly, it checks Geomancy Xerneas. Even with max special defense, +2 Thunder is not going to KO if you have this spread, right? 248, 56. And I'll just go over this real quick. 248 because overall bulk, and 248 so we don't get 4-8 KO'd by Stealth Rocks, or 2-8 KO'd by Stealth Rocks. 46 SpDef to not get OHKO'd by Thunder. 20 speed, that's my personal thing, so that you can outspeed 220s, which is a benchmark for outspeeding paralyzed Calyrex-Shadow, which is basically the fastest thing in the tier. And then the rest into defense to kind of round out your defensive utility, because you do deal with a variety of physically offensive threats as well. Okay, and I should also mention that we have heavy duty boots this generation, which enables both the defensive and the offensive sets, and it's great at both. And offensively speaking, its dual stab of Fire Flying is amazing, and it also has Earthquake. So even with just heavy duty boots, that combination is gonna rip through. It's gonna be particularly great against like defensive cores and stall teams and stuff like that. It's really annoying. Yeah, just awesome. And it uses its bulk and regenerator to switch in and get those opportunities, and it can have defog, whirlwind, whatever. So I love the offensive set too, and I love the defensive set, and it's just a really versatile Pokemon. And its extreme bulk allows you to hit benchmarks really easy and have flexibility with your EVs, and to just kind of do whatever you want with it. So yeah, really awesome. So defogging Xerneas. And then thirdly, and I would say lastly, for like its major role, is that it makes your team robust against Calyrex-Shadow. Because imagine this scenario. A lot of people use Yveltal as their Calyrex answer. And first of all, if you get tricked on the switch as Yveltal, then you become prone to double switching with Rocks Up. And so if you have Ho-Oh as well, then even if your Yveltal gets tricked and it's Ho-Oh then becomes a wall to Calyrex, unless it has Nasty Plot. But it becomes a wall because it doesn't get 2-hit KO'd by Astral Barrage. Or sorry, it doesn't get 2-hit KO'd by Astral Barrage or Psyshock. So it becomes a great answer and potentially a wall if your Ho-Oh has Recover. It just makes your team more robust around Calyrex-Shadow. It's not necessarily a perfect answer. I mean, but it does basically give you all the tools, or give you the tools you need to play around Calyrex-Shadow. And so I'm very, very familiar with playing around it. It's very consistent at aiding against Calyrex. So yeah, it does that well. And then we're getting into the less sort of important roles, but these are all great things that it does. So Necrozma defensive usually is doesn't have stone coverage, or sorry, rock coverage. So you can switch in Ho-Oh and defog the stealth rocks if you really want to. And I shouldn't. Another reason that I didn't go over this. So because Ho-Oh deals with Xerneas, it helps Blissey not get KO'd by surprise Xerneas moves like choice band close combat. And it also helps our Necrozma, if say our Necrozma defensive, which some are, but now that Zacian Heroes ban it has more flexibility, so it can be more especially defensive. Unless your Necrozma is EV to take less than 50% from a +2 Thunder from Xerneas, then you're going to have backup against Xerneas besides Necrozma, because Necrozma is not going to OHKO it unless it's really offensive with Sunsteel Strike, and you're getting 2-hit KO'd by Thunder. So Ho-Oh helps with that as well. And it's not just about just KOing Xerneas, keeping it from sweeping your team. What if you want to protect your Necrozma because you need it for something else, like Calyrex-Ice, for example? Then Ho-Oh is going to be there in Xerneas' way and protect your Necrozma, or protect your Blissey and not let it and keep it healthy for dealing with Kyogre, for example. So it just makes your team more robust. I think that's a great word to describe what it does. More robust against Xerneas, more robust against Calyrex, more robust against spike setters. I mean, really, that's what it does. And then even when it's not doing those what it's made to do, it's still helping against defensive cores. It kind of gets in, makes progress, or defog or thunder wave, whatever, spreading burns, and just walling random things that and we'll get to those. So we mentioned the hazard setters. Okay, this one's really cool. So what I started doing was building teams around dealing with Eternatus without Blissey, or even using Necrozma specifically to deal with it. So what I mean is that after Eternatus uses Power Herb or uses Meteor Beam, then you can switch in Ho-Oh and not get 2-hit KO'd by Dynamax Cannon and then Whirlwind it out. And then it no longer has Power Herb, same way that we deal with Xerneas. So that's one application that I find to be pretty cool. And obviously you're going to be switching into the defensive stats and potentially Regenerator stalling if you have 2 Regenerator users. So yeah, that's just some way to, I think that's most notable for team building, because it enables you to not have a dedicated Eternatus answer necessarily, because you can just switch in Ho and Whirlwind it out and have that be your means of dealing with it, which I think is cool. And then some other guys that it deals with Pheromosa. Choice banded triple Axel is not 2-hit KOing, so you could switch in your Ho and then switch out to a resist of whatever they're locked into, or if they don't have choice band, then they're not doing that much damage anyway. And then Darmanitan, you got to be careful around Darmanitan. All it does really is allow you to play around it, especially if they don't have Rock Slide. If they do have Rock Slide, then you can get OHKO'd by Rock Slide. So it's not something to be your dedicated way answer to Darmanitan, but it does help a little bit. All right, now Yveltal. So on my rank 1 stall team video, one thing that Ho-Oh is really good at is once you manage to knock off Yveltal's Life Orb, then you can kind of Regenerator stall it with Toxapex and Ho-Oh. Or even, if that's not your way of dealing with Yveltal, then you can still switch in Ho-Oh on offensive Yveltal and maybe even get a burn or something like that. So it does kind of help fend off Yveltal. Yeah. Rayquaza. So I just wanted to mention this. +1 Life Orb Dragon Ascent does not KO from full Ho-Oh. So you have a little less than 50% chance to burn it with Sacred Fire after that, or just use Thunder Wave. So I just wanted to mention that. And then Zygarde, on my old team, I would sometimes check Scout Zygarde with Ho-Oh, and then Whirlwind it out, just so I guess so I wouldn't get like if it had Toxic and I wanted to preserve my Quagsire or whatever. So it can kind of help a little bit against Zygarde and, phase it out to prevent it from setting up and getting crazy stats or anything like that. And then also it deals with Cinderace really well. It's kind of sad. And then also Magearna too. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all. It's a lot of its defensive use, and then it comes in on pretty much every defensive Pokemon, and makes progress there. But I think the offensive set, I want to talk about that a little bit. So you could have Choice Bands or Life Orb or Heavy Duty Boots, and you can still have your defensive spread for Xerneas, for example, and still have great offense. So I think offensive Ho-Oh would do really well even on a semi-stall team or a balanced team, something that's going to get in a lot and break down defensive teams. I think that's what it really excels at, because there's not a lot of stuff that deals with it. I mean, I think that's kind of what it's best at, is breaking down defensive teams. And it's got a great dual stab combination, and it has Earthquake and Whirlwind and Defog still. So it's really cool. And you can just run Heavy Duty Boots on it too, and it does just fine. And because you can still harass like Eternatus and hopefully bring it down. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for Ho-Oh. I've used, like I said, I've used it a lot, and it's been in my last 2 videos, and I just wanted to talk about it because I know that when I first kind of started using it, I didn't really think much of it, but I've really come to appreciate it and enjoy using it. And also, by the way, you could swap Thunder Wave with Brave Bird. It kind of just depends on what your team wants. But Sacred Fire Brave Bird means that you're more offensive. You're forcing like recovers, which is a free switch. You're so yeah, really good. And yeah, thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.